Welcome to the discussion. I really appreciate you all for being here today. If one can imagine a world without arts, without cinema, music, poetry, literature, the place would be such a dull place, devoid of imagination and creativity. We all know art represents a form of individual expression, a sort of secure framework for any democratic society. It provides the experience, it helps us to realize our human potential, capable to unleash our creative and imaginative side in our existence, both in the cognitive and the emotional aspects. So we are growing the next generation of leaders. Arts can transform young people's lives and enable the new generation to progress positively and as young, responsible citizens and influence the society we live in.
Hello, everyone. At the outset, Chitraji, I do want to thank you for having me for this wonderful discussion, very important and critically relevant discussion in this day and age. I'm very honored to be here in this discussion with all of you. I am Pallavi Vedantam, and I currently reside in USA, and I'm a scientist, and I do a lot of immuno-oncology research. So nice to meet you.
As you mentioned, Chitraji, that to imagine a world without music, I think it would be a very dangerous place, and life without music definitely is a mistake. So I cannot imagine.
Historically, storytelling through the arts and performances was a very commonplace, not just for the Indian audiences, but also amongst different cultures, both as forms of entertainment and also as educational tools. And over time, education became more structured, as we all have seen and experienced. And it has become more formal with little space, very little space, if not for the arts. So it's not the children that who have taken music or theater in their school, they grow up and they stay within their cluster or otherwise. What we see is what we see in the recent times. Are the arts optional for the youth?
Very valid question to ask in this time of, the times that we are living. I do want to start out at the outset to understand and define what do we mean by arts and culture. Arts can be a very broad range spectrum of all the activities that, for example, that promote poetry, that promote music, dance, theater, even folk art, or historical heritage, or anthropological stories. And all these things are the sum and substance of what constitutes art. We should not bicompartmentalize a certain dance form or a music form or a form of painting as only piece of art, right? Now, where does culture and art come? We know that art imitates life. And for youth, they develop at various stages. One, their development begins, as you said, cognitively when they start acquiring secular knowledge. What do we mean by this education? And why should they have this education? What kind of education will set a great ideal in these youth? What is the outcome of this education? These are the things that every family all over the world, they inquire very deeply. They investigate which college the kid has to go and what will be the future dividends of investment in such an education, right? And there are right answers to these questions if they take time to understand the purpose of education. They have to feel that education is just not for materialistic pursuits and rest with that idea and be contented. But if they have to change that attitude, right? Currently, all universities have become like a business model. If you have more enrollment, you have more students, and the cycle continues. But the end of this education should promote culture. And it is not by education alone that these youth can get refined. So essentially, culture promotes refinement. And such a refinement brings in good character, it brings in good actions, it brings in good behavior. And such behavior in the society is very important for the youth to feel, as you said, because they're the future generation who are building the foundation of the next few years. And so if one has to do that, every college, every school has to understand that, their developmental stages. As a scientist, at least I'm trying to put this across in a very simple way, is that they have physical growth, an element of cognitive thinking, as you said, social growth, and they also have emotional growth. We have to keep in mind that all these main four sources are interlaced with art and culture, and traditionally, which is passed from one family to another family all over the world. For example, if my parents were interested in an X form of art, I feel naturally inclined to take part in that art, to also invest and maybe take up that art, like you, Chitraji, right? You were also put in a different tutelage of different forms of art, and you're continuing this forward. And so it's from one generation to another generation. Now, you may ask the left brain or the right brain, which brain is important? We all know that for the right brain to be analytically developed scientifically, it is important for the left brain to stimulate the hormonal growth in the youth in order to perform and excel well, even in academics and secular education. So, long story short, there are certain things that we have to keep in mind, that they have growth spurts and they are physically discomforted with their own body image issues. So they are in a twin state of mind always. They are full of energy, they're expanding with creative abstract ideas, they're very analytical, they're finding their place in the society. They tend to reject the adults ready-made solutions very quickly, as we all know. And all these things have to be taken into consideration to reform or to channelize that energy, which is great energy. And we need future builders of the societies all over the world. And that's where art and culture come at an intersection, where culturally, whatever is passed on as a way of life, every Friday, for example, in India, you go during Margari Masam in the month of December, you all go for a lot of concerts, dance performances, all kinds of art, folk dances, right? So culture, it basically channels the art forms and leads them to be open-minded, willingness to ask, and it also involves teens in all these activities and channelizes the energy.
Such a brilliant perspective, and very true. Yes.
You know what? Charity begins at home.
Yeah.
My request and appeal is to the musicians, because it's their primary job and duty to do more for the arts. It's great that if I'm from a musician family, I will get it naturally from my parents. I understand that that's absolutely normal, that's natural, there's nothing wrong in it. But I should also look beyond my family and see who all are there, who can be I can share this music with. And it can be done. It can be done. You really don't need a lot of infrastructure to do that. All you need is a big heart and a willingness. We have never learned this music in any other form other than Gurukul. Gurukul, your Guru's family is your family. So if you really mean, and if you truly believe in that, you have to have a broader perspective. And a lot more needs to be done, especially India. I definitely feel that music should be compulsory from primary. It should be. Every person. Now, do I believe that every person who's doing music is a good person? No, I don't. Depends what that music does to them. Just because somebody is a good musician does not mean he's a good human being as well. It's a myth that if you play good music, these are two very different. There is something in us which creates great music, and there is something else in us which creates a great human being. Are they connected? Could be. But is it possible to separate them and have twin identities? Yes. That's why when you hear, sometimes you might hear a musician and you feel great. And then when you sit with them and speak, you say, okay, you know what? I think it's time to go home. So we have to remember that music is healing. Definitely it's healing. These are few things I'm speaking because it comes up very often. I played for somebody and you know what? They were suffering from cancer and they got cured. No, you cannot cure cancer with me. You might make the patient feel better.
Yeah.
Let's not go into a myth building thing so great, which you'll yourself find it hard to prove. If somebody is suffering, and today in America, there's a course in music healing. You learn. I compose pieces. I have students who do that all the time. They go to hospices, they go to hospitals, they go to old people's home. and I create music for them so that they can go and play. And they tell me the case. This person is suffering from depression. This person is dying. This person, and I create music accordingly. And when they go and play, do they get better? They feel better. Their pain seems a little lighter. It seems a little, they feel little stronger to handle that pain.
Mm-hmm.
The passing of a person from this journey to the next seems a little easier. We have to be clear that this is what it is. Now, is it important for every? I totally believe. I totally believe that music is something which should be taught to every single person. Every single person, whether or not they take, and does not mean because they are learning they have to take it as a profession.
Mm.
No, if you're an engineer and you're a musician along with that, look at Einstein. There's so many places where Einstein has said, most of my things, what I have contributed to science, I got it when I was playing my violin. It must open few knots within him, which gave him answers. So music is very important. Doesn't matter. You want to be a doctor tomorrow. Take that music with you. You will do everything you're doing. You will do it better. And if you want to take music as a profession, go for it. Go for it. Don't ask too many questions. Only question you should ask yourself, is my passion as great as if whatever happens to me tomorrow, I'll bear that. I'll not worry about a Mercedes car. I'll not worry about a huge house in, wherever.
Yeah.
And I'll live modestly, but I'll play music and I'll be happy. Can you live without music? No. If the answer is no, you better go for music. And if you think, yeah, I can do without music once in a while, I can listen, then do your academics and find a good job and be secure and listen to music, or weekends you play music. That's great. There's nothing wrong in it. No, not everybody has to be a performing artist.
Yeah.
And not everybody has to take music as a hobby. Of course, it's an insecure profession because it's not very streamlined as the academic field. Music, there's a lot of, it's not clear. A lot of things are not clear. But if your passion is great, how does it matter? When I took this as a profession in my teens, all I knew is that I want to do music. That's all. That all was what I was possessed, and until date it exists. That feeling that I wake up and I wake up to music. I go to bed and I sleep with music with me. If any other way, I'll go crazy. So this is my input to your question, and the government is doing a lot. Believe me. Could it be done better? Of course. The people who are executing it have to execute it better. Arts Council is giving a lot of money to all the organizations, Indian organizations I'm primarily talking about, because that's my experience. I've worked with Western organizations also, but I will not speak for them because that's not my area of expertise. But Indian organizations, say just England, talking about how many millions they get to execute. Are they doing justice? Maybe not totally. They could definitely do better. But they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot. They if you want to learn Indian music and you cannot go to India, England is a great place to be. People are traveling, Indian musicians all the time. There are musicians who are living in that country who are great musicians. It's really, a lot has happened in the last, especially 40 years. So let's be thankful and let's be positive.
I think you've brought in, a different dimension, and that is what is actually happening in the present years. Very true. I mean, I had phrased a few questions more on, what you have actually spoken now, and you have actually touched based on, the responses to those questions. Yes, I do understand. I do agree that the government, especially in the UK, is investing a lot in the arts sector. And I'm not sure, I don't know about the other countries, but as far as UK is concerned, the government is doing a lot towards the arts and culture. And I do second what you have, spoken about, both of you. In fact, some of us can take music as a profession, some of them as a hobby, as a recreation. And as Pallaviji rightly pointed, the kind of ambience that you grow up in your growing up years, if you are surrounded by music, obviously you will have more of an inclination to, either go closer towards music because of your passion, and perhaps that might, in fact, help you take up as a career. And then, as Gaurav, as you rightly pointed out, the more passionate we are, I mean, we have to be very decisive. If you take about 15, 20 years back, a music profession was not considered very lucrative as compared to, any other profession. Whereas in the recent years, in the 10, 15 years, it has opened up lots of avenues, and lots of artists from various genres of music have had this opportunity to, go places and spread the awareness of their form of music. So yes, we are in a very progressive state, and there is so much happening, and so much more can happen. There is a quote: "Talent is equally distributed, opportunity is not." Every child should have access to arts. We're talking about the accessibility here. Every child should have access to arts and culture, and to the benefits that access brings in. Now, every child should have a broad and balanced curriculum that fulfills their potential. In other words, they say people who are into arts, they are not only creative, but they are also more focused. I have seen this personally in my life. I've seen many people, and I'm sure you both will also agree to that. And every young person should have the opportunity, to change their life through these medium of art. Now, for this, the participation in the art is required, which will strengthen the skills and behaviors necessary to succeed in education and employment, and also increase their motivation and participation. What does equity within the arts and culture mean to you?
A great point. In fact, you stole my thoughts, Chitraji. I was just going to address the same question. We have to remember that equity in arts is plagued by different factors. I think that's more important to understand what is the root cause in order to find a good solution. Youth globally comprise about 25% of the entire population, and that's a large number of people. And these people, they face a lot of hurdles and developmental challenges. For example, they're frequently faced with disappropriately high levels of unemployment, insufficient access to education, arts, and professional training, intolerance, exclusion, among the major concerns. And once we address all these systematically, there'll be important roles in these urbanized societies that we are living, where globally all these societies can migrate towards a better economically stable society as well. And so, as far as my knowledge of awareness is, United Nations, for example, in the chapter of UNESCO, has done so many youth developmental programs for culture and arts. Just to name a few, we all know that they started the World Heritage Youth Forum in 1995 in Bergen, Norway. And they had over 30 youth forums that have been held all around the world. Since 2008, they have 40 new World Heritage volunteer projects where they can channelize the energy of these youth, and they can in all different 5 continents all over the world that they have taken place. Opportunities for mentoring are available with UN, for intercultural dialogue in the creative industries have been strengthened, and professional and creative development opportunities have been created all around the world by UNESCO Ruby Partnership Program. They also have a program where you can travel to learn arts and crafts. UNESCO Ashburn Bursaries for Artists program is made available. The main aim of all these programs, goes without saying, is to transmit heritage values to young people that favors intercultural understanding, respect for cultural diversity, and helps create an environment propitious to a culture of peace. And why is this important? I think, as I said, the foundational principles of being good in arts is a way of culture begins at home. And so if every parent at every household needs to know where these opportunities are available for them to access, they needs to be made aware. So it comes down to the fact of, who are the counselors at the college level? What kind of information their teachers are giving? What kind of information their local municipalities are giving? They have local fairs, they have local community programs, And all these things contribute the question of awareness and what are the challenges that they can overcome. And why is this important? For a simple reason that culture has the magnificent power to transform entire societies, strengthen local communities, and they can also push forth a sense of identity and belonging for all ages. It's necessarily not for youth, but for youth, it becomes very important in a sense that they feel, okay, they are, sustainable socially, economically, and they will take this into future generations. As Gauravji was saying, that your left brain is very important to excel academically. And it's absolutely true. If you see in early child development classes, they encourage every child to have a hobby. It necessarily need not be an art. You can also have a sport. But since we are primarily dealing with arts, right? And as you also said, Chitraji, it develops perseverance, patience, because it takes a lot of time, 10,000 hours to become a pro, right? So it takes a lot of seconds and hours and minutes to develop something from step A to step B. And to see that fruition is a great satisfaction for a generation of youth that are actually bubbling with energy in order to accomplish something. So to say it in plain words, arts and culture is like a bridge that connects not only different cultures in a country, but across nations. And why is this important for them? Also important politically for all the countries because it develops cultural tourism, right? So it's a very economical, sustainable plan. It also helps youth understand that they are just a part of a puzzle and they cannot just function by themselves. They don't become the frog in the well kind of a situation. They have to understand that if I have to cooperate, compromise, and contribute creatively, then only my progress and the progress of my community can move forward. And until and unless that idea sets in, and arts is that foundational principle that sets in that idea. If you take the example of an orchestra, dance orchestra, right? Unless you have every person in the dance orchestrating the right moves in the right coherent way, you cannot have a beautiful piece of performance. And so it gives them the idea just by practical example, because they're very physically involved in understanding the world at that age. And so having that affinity for information, that yearning, as Gauravji said, to seek that information, to communicate that information through technologies. Currently, we are vast in technologies to network and to transcend geographical backgrounds, right, and barriers and boundaries is very important for the youth. They don't want to be limited. They have an expansion thought, but they don't know how to translate into action. And so we are all currently, in this generation at least, in the position to act as potential agents of positive social change that will yield not only economic development, social and all-round development for the youth, but not only with them, it is limited. It will go to across all generations. So creative economies will open up work. Creative economies with youth will help strengthen their identity. As you said, bring social cohesion. And promoting such social cohesion, investing in these local initiatives of cultural resources, which include not only tangible resources, intangible resources that involve and encompass the traditional knowledge and skills. It's very important to root the youth in the place of the culture that they are staying in order to understand how the society has built itself. So history, right, is very important. And an important aspect of history is art. If there was no history, we would not know how the previous societies, they communicated with each other, how they were living happily, how they were sociable. And so art becomes a very important aspect of history, whether it is music, dance, theater, festivals, whatever it can be. It's an important aspect to create a strengthened identity of youth with social cohesion. And it is our duty and our role as elders to promote such creativity. An important thing to keep in mind is that to seek resources, even youth are very creative lately. They use the social platforms to create their own platforms, to generate funding, to pursue their passion. And so passion is an important uh, foreground and background to what the youth are going through. And it gives them emotional support. That is what I want to highlight more importantly. Whether it is giving them an economic socioeconomic aspect or a source of income or not. It's important for them to fall back onto something. They are not very comfortable discussing their issues and problems with their brothers or their sisters or their peers or their colleagues or their family members. Some are not, and it's okay to do that. But arts become an important form of expression. When everything is going great, they are able to enjoy life and they're sociable. But some things, when they hit setbacks, arts gives them that medium to hold on, to latch on to just go inward and retrospectively think, okay, what happened? Where did I go wrong? It gives them that space, it gives them that calmness, it gives them solutions. And that's where arts is an important element to their all-round development.
So beautifully explained.
Beautiful, so beautiful, so important. And I truly believe that, passion gives you that strength which you need
Mm.
to move ahead and to do it without really thinking too much and worrying about things. And without passion, it will not mean the same.
Yeah,
Adds that color and texture and brilliance into whatever you're doing. So
absolutely.
very important. I truly believe that what you're trying to say through music will reach the right person and that it will hit the right spot. Many a times what you're trying to say through words or through it will not, but through music, the connection is instant. The connect is there. So you have a ground to work on already, and then you can do what you want. So it's very important. Funding is another part.
Yeah.
Believe me, there are so many organizations world over, not just England. Of course, Arts Council is doing a lot, but talking of America, Fulbright,
Yeah.
they are doing so much. We have the Mukesh Ambani, the Ambani Trust,
Yeah.
Bill Gates Trust. They all are doing so much towards, art and culture. The thing is, I think the focus needs to change. I think we focus too much on money. We want to do something. The first thing we think and the foremost thing we think about and put all our energies into, where is the money going to come from? Just because you have money does not mean you're going to deliver good music. The main thing is that if your product is good, there'll be people there to support you.
Yeah.
When Vivekananda wanted to come to the West, he had no money. Apparently, he had some few dollars in his pocket or whatever, and he didn't even know whether he should be going to America, whether he should be coming to Chicago, and all he got was a message from his guru. When he closed his eyes, he says, "You go." And then when he said, "Okay, if my guru is saying you go, he'll take care of my to and fro and my stay there." And it all happened, and he created history. Now, if he sat down there to start worrying about money, he would not have spoken when he was asked to speak about zero year. Basically, trying to give him 2 minutes and saying, zero. I think that's what we think of India's spirituality and religion. And he says, "You have given me the most important number. Without zero, there's nothing in math."
True.
So his heart and his mind was at the right place.
If your product is good, if your work is good,
Yeah.
there will be people who will come and support.
And I totally believe what Pallavi ji said, that it's 10,000 hours. So where do you have the time to go and raise funds? We should be working on our guts and paltas and rags for 10,000 hours, each one of them, if you want to perfect it. Our job is to make music. I think what is required here, this is a very important thing you have raised, and also Pallavi ji, that maybe the youth should have a facility where they can find out about these organizations, because I think it's primarily hitting in the dark.
Yeah.
If it lands in the right place, you meet somebody in the Arts Council, or it hits somebody at the Fulbright Scholarship office. I think there should be a website where all these things should be. Somebody should really do that. If you're taking art and culture, if you're taking music, this and that organizations are into it. There should be a one-stop place where you click a button and everything is there. I think that can be done by somebody, and that will be a great contribution to the youth, that they have something on their fingertips to go to when they really need to execute some of their ideas or their life's dreams or whatever they're doing. I think that should be done. Yes. Yeah.
The arts being introduced in the STEM for the young people.
I do want to touch upon a few things that Chitraji and Gaurav mentioned before, but I'll loop back to them after I continue from this discussion. So youth in general, they have a life cycle like all of us. And these developmental stages, as I mentioned early on, these are very crucial. The golden age for youth is from the age of 18 to up to 28, 30 if you really stretch it. But that is their golden period, where all their cognitive abilities of thinking, of deciding factors, as you just said, they are all very heightened to some extent. And in such a frenzy of emotional imbalance or such a frenzy of energies that they are executing, if they are not channelized, then they don't have an avenue to express themselves properly, right? So if your faculties are at the peak of youth, that should be the best time to use them. For example, if you're sowing seeds of arts and culture early on, you can harvest the crop by the time they are youth. That's why every learning aspect of every form of art begins by minimum 6 years of age. You go for swimming, they say, okay, 5 is the minimum. You go for dancing, minimum 6. It's not because the teacher does not want to tolerate your preschool toddler, but it's because of the fact that very scientifically and spiritually and culturally, it's so deeply rooted, this understanding that your musculoskeletal system is not developed so much that they can hold certain poses in correct forms, or they can remember their notations for music in very good form, or perform very well in theater and dance, because you need a good posture and you need stability in your form. And so all these things are so biologically linked. So when you include STEM programs along with arts, what it does is it gives them an idea. Okay, so my body is expanding at this rate, and these are my currently maximal potential capabilities. What can I do to use them to good use? Not only with the brain, because the brain is stimulated from external stimulus. If there's no external stimulus of physical movement, you go into clinical depression, you go into mental health problems. There is no movement. To give you a very simple example, doctors suggest that when you are stressed and you're not able to make a decision, just start walking. And so there are so many people in so many offices, if you see, they're just randomly walking and taking rounds outside the building or inside to make an important decision beyond the age of youth. So physical movement exerts certain autocrine, endocrine, and paracrine hormones it secretes, it pushes for them to mentally get stimulated. So it's a very crisscross reaction. It cannot be that you're sitting on your sofa and you're going to just pick up the sitar and become Gauravji in the future. It's not possible. One can wish for it. Wishful thinking is great. I can also think, I've always thought one day Ma Saraswati, the goddess of education, is simply going to enter and I'm going to be playing the harmonium, which is my favorite instrument. Has it happened? Not really. But the point I'm trying to make is that it is important to understand that in STEM itself, your biology, how it affects your internal brain structure, and how it makes you feel. All these three things have to combine: your thought, what your word, and your deed. If anyone is off sync, I can claim I want to be the great dancer, right? This is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm saying. But if I'm not using my resources of awareness, right, as you pointed out, to that point, I just want to quickly mention, Chitraji, that even if these schools do not have opportunities or people who are passionate to bring about this, and this requires a lot of sacrifice. You have to think beyond yourself in order to think of a equitable society with arts and culture. It's not possible for a person who is only focused on themselves selfishly. And so arts is a form of selfless expression of love to the world, essentially. And so if you have to have resources, there is a great resource. I just want to point out that the UNESCO has a World Heritage Program. And this heritage education program has so many resources, conversations, meetings that have been recorded, that have been promoted It has a lot of workshops, that it has done educative seminars, that it has conducted training courses, forums of skill development, volunteer programs as its main tool. And it's an educational resource kit. And you were mentioning about the kit. And this is a great educational resource kit that has been given to so many school teachers currently, existing in 37 national language versions, that has reached at least 1 million young students. So there are places. And so it would be my suggestion for all the youth and whoever is listening to our wonderful audiences, that it is up to us to passionately seek these resources. And as Gauravji was saying, to address, the question of passion, it's absolutely right. I feel that youth are very passionate, but they have misdirected attachments. And what do I mean by that? For example, I have an exam. I know that I have to study for this exam. I'm fully capable of knowing this information, but I don't know how to translate it because I have a favorite cricket match going on. All my focus and passion is for the cricket match, but not on something that I know that if I don't perform well, I'm not going to have good results, right? So it's a misdirected attachment. If I come home, for example, and I say, oh, I'm very tired, I cannot be doing anything, for example, practicing my arts, right? And the moment you put on your favorite movie, you're all bright up and you're sitting fresh like a daisy in front of the screen. So we have misdirected passion because of misdirected attachments, because nobody has explained this very nicely or patiently from their early childhood at home or at school or at community level. That exposure has been missing. Gauravji mentioned about Vivekananda ji, and just a quick story I just want to mention and hand the floor to Gauravji, is that Vivekananda ji had actually visited long back in the early 19th century to California, and he had gone to a famous yoga guru's house, and he was taking a stroll on her property. And as a result of that, the hosts, there were a bunch of hosts, and one of their 7 to 8-year-old son was also playing. He was playing what you call golf. And so Vivekananda ji, being such a humble spiritual seeker, he said, oh, what is this? He was trying to engage the child. And he said, oh, this is a game of golf. You don't know, Swamiji. Child being child. I said, oh, really? Please explain it to me. I would like to understand this really well. And so he said, you take the putt, you aim, and you put it in there. And he said, that's simple. That is so easy. I can definitely do that. So the child looked at Swamiji and said, oh, this man has no idea what he's talking, clearly. They said, it's very hard, Swamiji, you cannot do it. So Swamiji, challenged him, said, all right, how much money do you have in your pocket? So he was surprised. How does he know, first of all, I have money in my pocket? He said, I have $10. Done. So he said he has $1. He said, if I win, you give me the $1. So he was so convinced Swamiji is never going to get it because he's been spending months and days on this. So Swamiji takes the putt, one go, and it goes into the hole. And the boy is shell-shocked at this point. So the father walks around and gets hold of both of them and calls them inside. So the child starts complaining, Dad, Swamiji took my $1 away. He was in distress because he lost his $1. So he asked, the child asked Swamiji, said, Swamiji, I've been trying this. How did you do this? Teach me the trick. And that's when the most important thing, that a youth or a child or anybody, an individual, gave a very beautiful message is, see, I had a lot of passion to play golf, but my concentration was more important to me. My focus was important. So I told my mind, hey, if you put it inside the hole, you'll get $1. Do you want it? And my mind said yes. And I did it. So coming back to the point that Gauravji was mentioning, that if you have the passion, things will move. The universe has a way to make things happen. And for that, you require an immense amount of self-confidence. And that's what I was saying. Misdirected attachments lead to a very low self-esteem, low self-confidence, because you're comparing amongst your peers. They're doing this, I'm not able to do this. Yeah. But they're not able to understand that everybody is unique in this place or in this world. And everybody has a path that is unique to themselves, but they all cross over. And when we cross over, it creates magic in art form. That is the idea that has not been instilled in all the youth lately. And so when you introduce STEM and art together, You don't need to explain that idea. That idea automatically sets in motion unconsciously to the teacher or to the environment. And it creates such a beautiful intercultural understanding. And it sows the essential seeds in each student, which makes them believe that, yes, I'm in a process that is leading me to contribute towards this result or towards that goal. And youth are all about setting short goals. They're not like our generation. They are about short goals. It's a fast society. It's a competition. And so they're always looking for ownership. They're looking for strengthened transparency. They don't like clouded information. They like accountability. And so when art is introduced in a STEM situation, that accountability comes automatically from inside. And arts are an expression of their inside. If there is a youth who is always into rock, we know what's happening in his brain. If there is a youth who always likes to dance, we know that he's bubbling with energy and he has to let it out somehow.
Yeah.
So it's all about expression of the inner self and how this expression has been received. And so between the expression and the avenue to let it out, that's where policies, governments, funding, avenues, and awareness, and as a society, we all become responsible to not make it freely available to them, but at least just nudge them in that direction.
Yeah.
And I think youth are very smart. They're extremely intelligent. In this day and age, they have more resources. If you and I wanted to know something, we had to go to the local library, fish the book out, read it for 30 days, and then seek information. Now it is one click away.
Yeah.
So if there is someone in your family or in any family all over the world seeking information, all that you have to do is go online and seek this information and ask questions. So questioning, finding answers, and finding solutions is all about passion. How much do you want it? If you do not want it, then it will never come to you. And so expression is an important communicative idea for youth. If blocked, leads to dangerous solution and into wrong habits. And so ultimately, your character, your culture, your tradition, and your heritage, they are fully circled with art. I think that's more important to keep in mind.
Amazing. That's so beautifully explained, Pallavi. Gauraji, would you like to add something to this, or?
I wish I could. I can't. She said everything.
We are in the age of AI, artificial intelligence. What could be the impact of artificial intelligence on the young people, particularly in the arts field? I feel that we need to train and prepare the kids for the kind of jobs that actually don't even exist. Because with the AI at the forefront in all the sectors today, we don't want the AI to take over the youth. We need to educate the youth with the soft skills and the social skills. I'd love to hear your perspectives, a brief one.
So I'll give it a very brief, response. Artificial intelligence is growing leaps and bounds, as we all know. No matter what we do with artificial intelligence, ultimately artificial intelligence can be a shortcut to many good outcomes and not so good outcomes. But at the end of the day, it does not know how to make you feel happy and peaceful. And if that's your primary goal that you're starting from, then the means can be artificial intelligence for sure. But what is the yield of this artificial intelligence and what avenues it is leading you to? And if you have the sensibilities of discrimination and thinking out aloud, if this is a feasible option, non-feasible option, or is this a great idea, where artificial intelligence is imitating life.
Sure.
Not like art in the truest sense, but maybe to 30% or 40%. I think youth will end up using this because they like something new and some new technology that gives them the adrenaline rush to seek and to know, which is okay. But how they use this platform to further their interest in art and culture will lay the foundation of artificial intelligence.
Oh, that's perfectly said. When you take music or dance, music, for example, AI cannot bring out the emotions, the expressions. I mean, they can perhaps It can help compose a music, but feelings, the emotions, that cannot be replaced. So I think with this, we come to the end of this wonderful discussion. You both have, spoken beautifully and shared your valuable insights. Gauravji, please. You
Just
wanted
one
to say?
thing, if I may add, you know, this thing about AI, it's a great platform and a great source of having a lot of information. But we have to be very clear, especially the youth, that there is difference between information and knowledge.
Mm.
And knowledge can only be derived when you walk that path of that information. It cannot be got from Google and that can help you create something or offer something substantial. And that's where I think the catch is, that you have to live it for you to be contributing and creating great stuff.
So true. Yeah. Thank you both. Thank you. I really appreciate giving your valuable time and your perspectives, which again, we are spreading this message to a wider audience, and I'm sure they'll have a lot of positive takeaways from our discussion today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chitraji. Thank you, Gauravji. It was lovely meeting you through this forum. As he said, information will not lead to transformation. Only knowledge leads to transformation. So that is well said.
It's a pleasure hearing you speak. There's so much we have learned
Absolutely.
from what you have
Yeah,
said.
I've learned a lot from both of you today. Thank you so much. Thank you.